Great. So I'm here with Thomas Paris and Marc Abrigo. We're doing the Geek Show 2, or do we just say this is the sequel, or we just call it totally by its...
I think we're probably going to, just for branding purposes. So it's the Geek Show 2 Bindlecon.
Okay, great. I saw the first Geek Show last year. It was excellent. It's done by Bindlecon Studios here in San Francisco, and I guess it's going up fairly soon for a 3-week run. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. We're up in 2 weeks.
Okay, great. Do you want to tell me a little bit about it, about this iteration?
So, Bindlecon is a fictional comic book convention that we've set all of our short plays in. So it's supposed to happen on the Saturday of that convention. And it's as if you could rip the roof off the convention and look at all the different rooms and all the little goings-on and just peer into those spaces and see what happens.
Okay, cool. So a lot of different scenarios that happen within a Comic-Con, or is it like a Comic-Con specific to a certain genre, an all-encompassing con?
I think it's one of these pop culture conventions in general.
Okay.
What we wanted to do is, for folks who have gone to conventions before, our goal was was for them to come see this show and go, "Yep, that's exactly what happens." Maybe a little, stylized or exaggerated, but that is definitely something that happens. And for folks who have never been to a convention before, for them to come through, watch this show, and go, either I definitely want to go or I am staying away.
Okay.
What it boils down to. But the
fair warning.
For sure. I mean,
This might happen.
a big reason why we came up with this theme after last year's Geek Show, which was a collection of sort of, disparate sort of sketches and subject matter, we were actually challenged by one of our mentors, hey, can you come up with a whole show that's themed? So there are a couple ways you can do that. It's like all superhero themed, all anime themed, video game themed. We actually took it as literal as possible and said, how about we create a universe and everything that's happening throughout this whole show is stuff that's all happening in one day in one place.
Uh-huh.
And that sort of created a number of different scenarios for us to write.
Okay, cool. So if you didn't get access to a big Comic-Con for some reason, or have never been to a con, you can come and find out a little bit about the culture in this. Do you guys want to talk to me about your own experience at any con that is, influenced this or influence of your writings here? Just maybe what your favorite con is or what your favorite thing is about it? Hey.
Jeez, that's a fucking tough question, man.
Because a lot of people, we don't know who this audience is going to play for. A lot of people only know about Comic-Con in San Diego.
Yeah.
I myself err towards the Comic-Cons. I don't really go to the gaming cons. I don't know a lot about that stuff.
Well, I'll say this. The best part about going to any sort of convention is understanding that you are entering a world where everybody is completely free to act how they want to. One of the ideas behind this particular setting was a con is a place where geeks can be the best and worst versions of themselves, right? So we have a number of pieces here that sort of highlight...
Does that imply usually they're just being the medium versions of themselves? I don't know.
Well, at a
socially
con, they never
version.
have to...
Right.
At a con, they don't have to, worry about how people will view them. So you'll get people who are acting a little more confident than usual. Folks who love to cosplay, obviously, they can't do that in real or in their day-to-day lives, but they can go to a convention and act the fool. I can't tell you how many Deadpools I've wanted to just punch in the nose because they're acting crazy at these conventions.
Oh yeah, they're doing it in character. Right?
Well, it's just an excuse for them to be dicks. It's really one of those.
They might naturally be dicks. Right?
True, but what?
Sometimes cosplay self-selects the personality, and
it's like you don't choose the cosplay chooses you. Kind of one of those things. But there's so many.
I agree with that observation that many cosplay Deadpools are kind of dicks.
Watch it, Deadpools. We're on to you. If you come running at me, you're gonna catch a knuckle sandwich.
But don't switch to cable. I don't want to see any cables either because that's even more broy. Anyway, sorry to interrupt.
No worries. What it really boils down to is that a lot of, despite the fact that geek culture is mainstream, I think a lot of geeks still don't feel that way until they get to a convention. And when we see them in sort of their natural habitat, if this was like a nature documentary, then we kind of get to see what they're really like, and we put them in these scenarios that only happen at conventions. And like I said, if you've been to one of these things before, you're going to recognize them, and if you haven't, this is a warning, as you mentioned.
Okay.
You know.
Thomas, any convention experiences you want to share?
Any convention experiences? Man. My favorite convention experiences are are really the immersive experiences when you really are brought into a world where you have to behave a certain way, or there's certain rules. This isn't my experience per se. It's who's that? Mythbusters guy, Adam Savage.
Adam Savage.
Yeah. So he did a TED Talk about cosplay.
Yeah.
And he talks about how he dressed up as No Face from
Spirited Away?
Spirited Away, yeah. And he would try to give people gold coins.
Oh man.
Right?
Yeah.
And he noticed that people were giving them back. He didn't know why that was. And then he realized it's within that con sort of culture, it's bad luck to receive a gold coin from No Face. And it has something to do with the lore from the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Doesn't he eat you? Or it's been a while since I saw Spirited Away. But
It has something to do about how No Face is just a spirit that just wants to please you, wants to give you what you want, and something about how it'll spoil you. It's not good for you.
Right.
And those kind of interactions that's really interesting to me.
Sure. Yeah. And if I'm remembering what I heard about Adam Savage's talk recently, he talks a little about you inhabit a character, and in my observations of cosplay, it's often the character, the person you most really want to be, and or a person you genuinely love, who is not yourself. So it's not like as show-offy as some people think it is. It's actually sort of an act of adoration for your higher self. But you got to do the research, because if you're walking around as I don't know, Freddy Krueger, and you don't know what Freddy Krueger does, and then you're just like, hey, I've got a great costume.
Is that a thing? Are there like cosplay posers out there?
There are cosplay politics out there at the wazoo.
So many politics.
I mean, when we were coming up, or when we did the first Geek show, we were already in the middle of coming up with ideas for the second one, and we wanted to talk about politics in cosplay, and how simple things like obviously we know about the gender politics in cosplay, but then you go into stuff like race and body type, and suddenly what already seemed kind of murky and mucky is even crazier than you thought. So we have the majority of our cast last year and definitely this year are female. So it's one of those things where we definitely get to see a different side to geekery that people wouldn't expect from something called the Geek Show. I guess I don't know. I guess people naturally expected our show to be a sausage party, right?
That was our fear early on. Like, oh my god, we're just gonna get dudes.
It's 8 dudes and our girlfriends, like our 2 girlfriends. As it turns out, it's been a great way to get to try to sort of break that stereotype, because now we get to speak on issues that Thomas and I might not intrinsically get, but resonates so much more with more than half the cast.
Sure. Okay. I remember you talked about that in regards to last show. You had a Google chat where I guess the female members of the cast talked through a lot of issues, and that came creatively into one of the pieces. And when you said that, I was thinking I wonder if the intersection of person of color culture making theater allows for more women to get into their nerd space. I mean, might have. I don't know because I haven't seen this theoretical all sausage show version of the Geek show. I bet it exists somewhere, right?
I think that's any sort of nerd show out there is probably going to be mostly guys. What we wanted to do was have definitely a much more inclusive thing, and when people kind of saw we were doing this, they came out the woodwork, and the last thing we wanted to do is to start gatekeeping, right? The last thing we want to do is start gatekeeping, and these are some of the nerdiest people we've ever met, and the majority of them happen to be female. I think that it was just a cool sort of aside.
Yeah, sure. It blew our minds.
Sure.
Wow. There are some really, really geeky women out there, and awesome, I might add, who like they do their own cosplay. They make things to sell on Etsy. They're really geeky.
And it didn't, just to clarify, I don't think it blew our minds to see that they're here, that they're around. I think it just blew our minds that as cool as they were, they gave us a shot. And they were like, yeah, we'll be in your show. And we're like, cool, all right, sorry, in case it sucks. And thankfully, it's been really good so far. We're really excited about this show.
Okay, great. Yeah, it's a very diverse, interesting cast.
You were saying something about how the intersection between geek and person of color manifests in our show.
And then also maybe gender somewhere in there, but
Gender.
sorry, go ahead.
Actually, did you have something in particular?
I was just going to say it didn't really our Filipino identities. It's sort of in the background. It's not at the forefront of what we're trying to say. We sprinkle it in there in these tiny little touches, like you saw last year. The piece with Tita Boy.
Yeah.
Right? Well, he's back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's at a convention.
Right,
Yeah.
great.
Mhm.
His first convention?
Yep.
Okay.
And a couple other things like, you talked about the intersection of race. Last year, we did a piece called Distinguished Competition about the Asian American guys who were at an audition, and they're trying to figure out, like, oh, this is our shot kind of thing. This year, we actually made a huge left turn, and we're like, you know what? There's a ton of Asian representation, obviously on stage, but we have a piece in this show called the Winston Syndrome, which is a sort of our love letter to, and it's very topical and timely too, our sort of love letter to strong black female geeks out there. We happen to have 3 in the troupe, and 2 of them are in this piece, and it's one of these things where it's like, I asked them, guys, as strong black women, what is something that bothers you? Because we want to get this out there. I know it's bindle stiff, but we want to get your sort of a message out there too. And they just started talking, and literally within like an hour and a half, we have what is probably going to be one of our funnier pieces in the show, because it's not something you get to hear very often. You hear, black nerds, and the fact that there's a site a friend of mine runs called Black Nerd Problems.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where it's like, that site has to exist because there's a whole community that needs a voice like that. And we kind of wanted to say, like, hey, we're here to amplify that voice and boost that signal a little bit. So, yes, there is Asian representation in the shows that we're doing, but we definitely wanted to give more of a voice to our others, considering how diverse our cast is right now.
Yeah.
Can you tease a little bit about the premise, or what's the character in that sketch?
I'll say it like this. It's 2 African-American women at a convention. One of them is having issues with their cosplay in the bathroom. And just to give you an idea of kind of what they're talking about, one of them says, oh, you're Jessica Jones. You're dressed up as Jessica Jones. And the other actress goes, oh, thank God. You called me Jessica Jones and not Black Jessica Jones. So, and that sort of, see, you're already like, oh.
And very recognizable situation.
I mean, the name of the piece is called the Winston Syndrome, which I actually had to explain to people. It's something that's sort of touched upon in Stranger Things, how if you're a young black, male, female, and someone asks you who your favorite Ghostbuster is, you almost are immediately expected to say Winston just because you're black. And in Stranger Things, when they're dressed up, they tell Lucas, they're like, you're Venkman, but I'm Venkman. It's like, why do I have to be Venkman? Or why do I have to be Winston, right? And so it's this idea of expectation when it comes to black nerds and cosplay, and the fact that it's black women who are claiming their nerdiness here and outwardly showing, like, we go through some stuff that most people might not, understand. Like I said, we wanted to give them a voice.
Right.
It's good.
And just to tease out that thought a little bit, as we know, one of the common situations in cosplay talk is like a white person who is an authentic cosplay fan will be like, why can't I want to dress as Dora or Nakia or whatever, or Black Panther. Well, technically Black Panther maybe, but okay, I won't go there. But like, why can't I dress as the person of color costumes? And that's so racist. And there's I don't know if you've seen this debate play out before. And then we as people of color be like, well, you have a billion costumes already that people you have de facto access to, and we're like still scraping for that one character in that one show. Gee,
like, let us have this thing, please.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's not exactly like if you're gonna call us like Black Jessica Jones every time we cross dress that way.
And it's like, if I'm Black Wonder Woman, why do I have to be Black Wonder Woman if I'm just Wonder Woman? You know, I mean, you see a lot of white people dress up at conventions as what I'm guessing would be, if they're anime characters, I'm guessing Japanese in a lot of these things. But no one says, oh, they're the white Yujiro or something like that.
That's true.
You never hear that.
Right.
But as soon as, if I'm dressed up as Hawkeye, it's like, oh, he's like Asian Hawkeye. I'm like, nah, bro, I'm just Hawkeye.
Yeah, I've heard that too. I've been Asian Tony Stark and
no, see, you know it,
Asian
you get it.
So it was kind of a big turning point year for Black women nerds. I think we can all agree, right? Black Panther was a big deal. Did you see? Black Panther?
Goodness, yeah. Black Panther was probably the best Marvel movie I've ever seen.
Don't you think?
Yeah, it's pretty rad.
That's best. I mean, I used to think Jessica Jones was my favorite Marvel thing, and still is. But I think Black Panther's up there, and Jessica Jones season 2 is really not as interesting for me. I don't know.
It wasn't not having a clear villain was very problematic for me because I'm like, what are we doing here? I love the idea of the case, but I don't know. Maybe it wasn't for me, right? Maybe it wasn't for folks like us, because I'm sure there's some folks who are like, yep, I totally get this.
But obviously digressing. Just to fill out this topic, are there any Filipino culture moments or that you think are specifically entwined with the show or informed the show somehow?
Well, is there anything that's maybe specifically for a Filipino audience in this one? Like that kind of question? I think we definitely have pieces where folks might pick up on the Filipino isms more, but I don't think we set out to specifically speak to Filipinos on this. I think folks who are Filipino will definitely enjoy certain parts that maybe the rest might not get, but we don't have a piece specifically for Filipino folks. We'd like to think that it being at Bindlestiff is kind of like, hey, you know what you're getting into, you'll see some cool stuff here, and Tito Boy might show up, and
sure.
We'll see what he does.
And again, Tito Boy is a sort of recurring character as part of Bindlestiff, the institution, right?
Yeah, he's been played by, as far as I can think, 3 people.
Okay.
In the history of Bindlestiff, and his first appearance, as far as I know, was 2005.
The Fob Show?
The Fob Show,
yeah. He's kind of like our James Bond. Now, granted, it's not the same exact Tito Boy. I mean, it's a spiritual kind of thing, but it's actually really funny. I did not plan originally on writing Tito Boy into this show, and some of the cast members were talking with their families, and their families are like, oh, is Tito Boy coming back? And I went, oh, dear. He's got a fan base. Okay, cool. So we threw him in, and he has fun in here. Him and his nephew. So if you saw the Geek Show 1, where Tito Boy is dungeon mastering for his nephew and his nephew's friends, they are back. And in a very different capacity than last time, but indeed they are back. So, I mean, I can tell you that we're not going to bust out with the Tinikling on this. I don't think that we're going to be doing that.
Don't know who that is.
Oh, sorry. The Tinikling is a Filipino folk dance. So we don't do anything like that. But I think with this show, we wanted to... I think we did want to definitely welcome everyone in the same way that a convention typically welcomes everyone. Do we have pieces, again, specifically for Filipino folks? Probably not in the sense that you're describing, but I think everybody can come away with the same sort of enjoyment, and definitely, as I mentioned before, Filipino folks will definitely enjoy certain things more than others.
Okay. can you say a little bit about how did the last Geek show go for Bindle Stiff as a institution? I mean,
I think it's probably the most unique show at Bindle Stiff, only because Bindle Stiff is a space for people of color, for Filipinos and whatnot. So for our show to be this sort of like this general audience type show, and we don't have a lot of Filipino stuff. It's really more about like pop culture, geek culture. It was good in the sense that we were reaching out to audiences that we hadn't really had access to before. People who would never have otherwise shown up to this space. Showed up. They were like, "Oh wow, didn't know this was here." And we're hoping to do a lot more of that this time. We're advertising via posters in comic book stores, and all these different Facebook groups that would otherwise have nothing to do with the epicenter for Filipino arts and culture in San Francisco. But here we are, doing a pop culture show. So we've got a reason for them to come out here.
I mean, if you just take a look at a picture of our cast, if you look at a picture of our cast, that is the America that Trump is scared of.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's one of those things where I think you look at that and you can say to yourself, like, people can be united, and who knew that it's nerd shit that like everybody sort of can unite on. But the cool thing about our show is, despite
sort of super team resistance
Yeah.
version of
Yeah.
those people.
it's nuts. So the fact that, like, yes, it's not a show specifically for Filipino people. I don't think Filipino folks who watch it will feel like we're selling out. If that's it's like, no, we're not gonna do Filipino stuff. We want to get more people in there. It just sort of turned out that, hey, we're a bunch of Filipino folks who have a ton of other friends of color, and we all want to do a show where we're nerds, and that's kind of first and foremost.
Yeah, absolutely.
But again, we do talk about race. We do talk about gender. We do talk a lot about or giving voices rather to groups that might not otherwise have them. And us being the Filipino and Filipino American theater that we are, it just feels right that we use our resources to make everybody feel like they're welcome at the table.
Yeah. And I don't mean to belabor this point, but it like for me, like how Black Panther they got this great action-packed superhero movie meshed with a discussion of Black liberation and race politics, and similarly, like I saw a cool meshing of two agendas there, two kind of two different ways of enjoying a film, and I get that same sort of feeling when I see people of color performing in these geek themed shows. So it just, if anything comes to mind along that line of how like those kind of strains collide in the world of geekdom at Bindlecon, it's something I'm interested in. But maybe we'll see when we'll see the show and have more to discuss on that point. I should know this, but what is the Bindle part of Bindle Stiff? What does that even mean?
All right. Well, a bindle is that a sack of stuff that a hobo has to carry at the end of a stick.
Okay.
Yeah. And a bindle stiff, a stiff, like a working stiff. The stiff is just a guy who travels around. So a bindle stiff is basically a vagabond who carries all his stuff on a bindle. And they chose that word in the 90s for this space. I think mainly because it was sort of a vagabond space. They made theater in a place where theater didn't really exist, in a black box, with the barest of sets and with the bare bone props, and it's really, man, you're really bombing here. I'm sorry.
Oh no, that's it. I think I got it. I was curious how
how that sort of
word I mean, obviously it's the name of your thing. I was just curious because I'm a word nerd and I wonder what Bindlecon would actually end up meaning. But that's great. I didn't know that. I'm going to give you a chance to just give any wrap-up thoughts you want to do. But before we do that, I was just going to throw out a few nerd movie things and just ask your general impressions.
Yeah, go for it.
Anything you want to say about them that's fairly concise. Okay.
Ooh, soundbite time. Here we go.
Star Wars: The Last Jedi.
You first.
Because you're summoning your powers to.
No.
Star Wars: The Last Jedi. Fine. For me, it was a perfectly enjoyable movie. I don't think it deserved as much backlash as I think I saw from some of the doldrums of the internet, and perhaps my partner here might disagree. Perfectly fine movie. I already see a little bit of fatigue there, though. Especially with Solo coming out, so we'll see. Thomas?
I hated it. I
Hated it.
Yeah, I hated it. It was for me anyway. It was awful. And the best thing I can say about The Last Jedi is that I don't know what's going to happen next. I really don't. I don't know what their plans are. What's going to happen with Princess Leia? Is she going to be played by Meryl Streep? I don't know. What happened to everything they were setting up? I don't know. But you know what? I also don't care anymore. It's like The Last Jedi sort of
He's off the bus, ladies and gentlemen.
I got off the bus. Like,
Don't hear about it from a friend.
Well, you know what? It's okay. This franchise is for other people now, and I can take the movies that I liked, and I can enjoy them, and they don't need to be tainted by whatever that comes afterward.
But to be fair, would you get back on the bus if Meryl Streep did play Princess Leia? Because I think that would be fascinating.
That would be interesting, and I will see the next movie because I sort of have to.
We got your money. We're gonna get your money anyway, Paris.
But yeah, no, it was from even just looking at the movie just on its own merit. It's awful. Of course, I mean,
Okay, so that's the Geek Show creator producers on Star Wars: The Last Jedi. Black Panther, the film.
The way I feel about Black Panther can really be summed up toward the very end, where Black Panther and God, what's his sister's name? Shuri. Yeah, she's they're in Oakland, and T'Challa's just like, yeah, I bought that building. This is going to be where we make our stand. It's going to be the Wakandan Outreach Center, and then they reveal the ship, and that one kid comes up to him and he's just like, "Who are you?" And that gets me teary-eyed every time, because that movie is really for kids like that, not just like young black boys, but just young people of color who have like this dual identity as an American, and it's not, and I'm just so happy that they now have a guy, that they have a dog in the fight.
Yeah.
And that
a panther, as it were.
A panther, as it were. And that person is cool as shit.
Yeah.
Imagine if Black Panther was as cool as Ghost Rider, or someone sort of lame like that. That would be pretty awful, I think. But no, it turned out like it turned out that Black Panther is a cool ass dude. With an awesome story.
Okay, maybe that goes a little deep in the weeds. Are you positing that just because Ghost Rider is a sucky movie?
I think Ghost Rider is a sucky movie.
That's what I was trying to say. Against Ghost Rider?
Oh no, I don't have anything against Ghost Rider. But if they mess this movie up, I mean, like, that would be kind of a tragedy. And people want to say, oh yeah, Black Panther. Whatever. Blade was the first black superhero. Look, shut up. All right.
Well, when people say that to me, I always point out that like it's changed so much. Back then, it was a stigma. People would be like, "Oh my gosh, Wesley Snipes has to be in the stupid superhero movies."
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, Halle Berry's reduced to playing Catwoman. Now it's like, why aren't there black characters playing superhero? Because superhero movies aren't stupid anymore.
Right.
Like, so our discourse has changed.
Yeah, that's
that way.
That's a good point.
I really don't think that Blade was marketed as a superhero movie anyway. It was a martial arts action movie starring Wesley Snipes, and he's fighting vampires. I don't think anyone said, well, Blade the superhero. No one was saying that.
No one said.
I mean, Blade wasn't even really a thing to most people until then, and then he started showing up in cartoons, and that was just for the nerds who were watching those cartoons, right?
Right.
So people say, there were black superheroes before, yeah, but not with this much support.
Not this black.
Well, this wasn't as good a movie. Let's just say that the Black Panther is an excellent movie. It's well done,
absolutely.
well written,
and you
from
know
top
what?
to bottom.
There are things in Black Panther you've never seen before.
Absolutely.
Like the technology. Like, oh man, that lab. Where else have you seen a lab with like art, with cultural art that lines the walls and makes this place beautiful?
Yeah.
You know?
Black Panther. This was the best movie that could have come out with the best people involved at the best possible time. I think if you had done Black Panther with any other group, with any other writer-director, with any other cast, in, let's say, 2006, it would not be what it is right now. I think it needed to come out at this time for it to mean as much as it does.
Sure.
I mean, talk about Wesley Snipes. Wesley Snipes has been lobbying to play Black Panther since I think either the late 90s or early 2000s. He's been wanting to play Black Panther.
An excellent point.
And so, the interest just wasn't there, And I think once Marvel found its footing, because a lot of people forget that Captain America, Iron Man, and Thor were B-listers, like, for a very long time to mainstream audiences. They had to pick those characters because X-Men and, Spider-Man were already taken by other movie studios. So to jump into Black Panther, I mean, comics fans know how badass Black Panther is.
Sure.
Finally, we get to see, on a mainstream level what Black Panther's capable of, and I couldn't be any happier for everybody involved.
Yeah. And is it fair to say that during the Trump era, it means quite a lot?
Oh, jeez.
Sure, yeah.
Oh, my God.
I'm looking for a hero.
I'm sure Trump's trying to figure out how to put a tariff on vibranium or something. He's probably sitting there going, we gotta find it.
It's so unfair that they have all the vibranium.
Huge business, vibranium.
That was actually in a sketch. Did you see that one?
Oh, no, I didn't, actually.
Yeah, they dropped that
Is this
like
SNL or something?
in one of the SNL sketches.
Okay.
That was
Nice.
I'm unoriginal. I apologize.
No, sorry, I only call you out.
No, I didn't realize.
All vibranium versus Trump jokes are good. The Infinity War.
I am. I'm waiting, but I'm scared. I'm scared because this is going to be such a change of the guard for Marvel, the Marvel Cinematic Universe in general, that I know it's going to usher in a lot of cool, crazy stuff, but at a cost. Obviously, the conversation is who's dying in this, because you cannot have essentially what's going to be a two-parter and have everybody come out scot-free. So this is going to be one of those things where I'm kind of like doing a lot of heavy breathing exercises and like trying not to get too invested, but that just lets you know that I care a lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that they've done such a good job. I think it's going to be great, and I think a lot of people are going to be affected. But at the same time, I think people are going to be looking forward to what's in store for the future.
I mean, begging the follow-up, is there any Marvel character you're invested enough that you really don't want them to die? As opposed to the Last Jedi thing that, wants to say where we kind of don't care anymore.
Just the fact that they made Robert Downey Jr. relevant again in 2009 when Iron Man came out, such a huge deal. The fact that they made Captain America cool in such a cynical sort of geek landscape where people are like, Superman is boring because he's a Boy Scout. You know who else is a Boy Scout? Captain America. Yeah. And so they did a really good job of making you not only care about him, but make him cool.
Yeah.
So if either of those two are going, which I think they're the sort of leaders on the scoreboard right now for who's going to bite the dust, it's scary to see. But I hope they don't kill off Hawkeye, because I haven't seen him in any of the promotional material, but I think it's because he's showing up maybe in the second movie.
I do believe Hawkeye gets killed a lot in the comics, so for me that's sort of an even thing. Like, it follows the trope of the comics, and he's probably going to axe, but he also comes back, so it's like, I don't even care.
Right.
Tom, any thoughts on Infinity War?
On Infinity War, I'm really excited. I would just echo all of Mark's sentiments. I'm really afraid for Cap in particular.
You're afraid for Cap in particular?
Yeah, he's probably my favorite of the Avengers.
Which is weird, because you've never been like a goody two-shoe type.
What are you trying to say?
I'm saying that I've never heard you ever say that you like Superman.
That's true. Yeah.
You know, but a guy like Captain America, who's morally kind of the same dude, you're like, yeah, I believe it.
You know what it is? Because Captain America is more down to earth than Superman.
He works out. Captain America works out,
Yeah,
everybody.
he's
Captain America, the super soldier, the pinnacle of human evolution or growth. He runs laps, bro. Like, that's, you know, Superman just, ooh, I lost my glasses.
Yeah.
Captain America works out. I think that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to your point, like I don't like Captain America as a comic book character. I read Captain America comics. There were sort of so they did a really good selling job in those movies.
Oh yeah.
I think one of the best things they did was they made it very clear that he hates bullies, and you buy it. I mean, casting somebody like Chris Evans, you know, blonde hair, blue eyes, tall, strapping, all-American good guy, you are begging for nerds to be like, fuck this guy. Yeah. And then when you see him getting picked on and then fighting for other people, when he says in that first movie, I can do this all day, you know every nerd in the audience is like, yeah, yeah, get your ass beat, but still get back up. Like, you feel that. And I think once he kind of got the nerd nod of approval, that was it. So yeah, I'm scared. I'm really scared.
Scared to work out. What video games are you guys playing?
Oh shit! Monster Hunter World.
I'm sorry, can you say again?
Monster Hunter World, like the rest of the next gen console playing population. Okay. Yeah, I think people have gone nuts over that game. It's been pretty awesome. A friend of mine, she played the previous Monster Hunter. She clocked in about 400 something hours over the course of 2 years, right? And she clocked in the same amount of hours in the past 2 months that it's been out.
Oh my god.
Yeah, Justine.
Oh my god. That's amazing. Okay.
Yeah.
Well. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Wow. I too am playing Monster Hunter, but you know, other games that it's like the Mafia. Like I thought I was out of Overwatch, but they keep pulling me back. Anytime they say, "Yeah, we released a new hero," I'm like, "Okay, I'll check it out." There I am. It's 4 a.m. on a night where I got work in like 3 hours, and I'm like, "Just one more match." Okay. But yeah, Overwatch is still a big thing. Are you playing anything? So?
I'm not as big a gamer. I just play the ones that are based on the franchise. I was playing that stupid Star Wars Battlefront game.
Yeah, is that 2 or 1?
The Battlefront 2 is... Battlefront 1 is pretty good too because they have Jyn Erso, and I like playing Jyn Erso. She has a really great truncheon strike. Playing Rey is pretty fun.
Cool.
I say, but it's not a very robust game. It's not like...
Have you spent any money? Have you spent any money on them microtransactions, bro?
No, I did not.
It's all good. EA's not listening. I got friends at EA. Guys, don't listen to this. It's not working. It's not working.
I don't think it gets more robust if you eat all the microtransaction Kool-Aid. I don't think it does. If someone can prove me wrong, go ahead. And yeah, in its way, more satisfying than the Star Wars movies now.
There you go.
But in wrapping up, would you like to say anything about your Geek show? About things you hope will blow up in Infinity War or not?
Hawkeye's house. No. I hope it doesn't blow up. Let's see. For all our fellow geeks out there, if you've ever wanted to see sort of your world put on stage for geeks by geeks, make sure to come out to the Geek Show 2 Bindlecon, premiering at Bindlesift Studio here in the south of Market in San Francisco, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th weekend of April. If you want to go buy tickets, you can go to geekshowsf.com. Thomas?
Yeah, the only thing I would add is that this show was created, or not, I guess not totally created. This show was dreamt up by 2 high school friends who are nerds who have been playing D&D for the past 17 years.
Yep.
And it just so happens that we grew up, we learned how to do theater, and we brought in several of our very talented friends to come help us out and do this show.
Yeah. Being a geek is never being ashamed of what you love. So if that's a philosophy that you subscribe to or wish that you want to explore with a bunch of other geeks who aren't ashamed of what they love, definitely come and check us out.